Imagine you just bought a brand new laptop. You unbox it, power it on, and before you even open a browser, Windows 11 has already loaded Candy Crush, pinged Microsoft servers 17 times, and burned through 3.5 gigabytes of your RAM doing absolutely nothing. Now picture a different machine booting in 8 seconds, sipping just 1.2 gigabytes of RAM at idle, and launching Firefox in under half a second. Same year, same hardware category. Completely different philosophy. One of these operating systems was built for you. The other was built for a corporation's quarterly earnings report. And in April 2026, the gap between them just got embarrassing. Stay with me because by the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly why Ubuntu 26.04 does not just compete with Windows 11. It makes Windows 11 look like a relic from a decade ago. Let me give you some context first because this story did not start last week. For years, and I mean years, the conventional wisdom in tech was simple. Windows for normal people, Linux for nerds. That was the rule. Nobody questioned it. Microsoft had the apps, the games, the polish, and the market share. Linux had the command line, the forums, and a reputation for breaking every time you updated your graphics driver. That was the narrative. And for a long time, it was mostly true. But something started shifting quietly around 2022 and 2023. Linux desktop usage started creeping up on Steam. Developers began switching en masse to macOS and Linux for their daily drivers. And Canonical, the company behind Ubuntu, started making decisions that looked less like hobby project maintenance and more like a deliberate, long-game assault on Windows dominance. Ubuntu 24.04 LTS in 2024 was good. Ubuntu 25.10 in 2025 was better. And then came April 22, 2026. The day Ubuntu 26.04 LTS, codename Resolute Raccoon, landed. And the tech community collectively stopped scrolling. Here is what makes this release different from every Ubuntu release before it. This is not an incremental update with a new wallpaper and a couple of bug fixes. Ubuntu 26.04 ships with Linux kernel 7.0, a release that Phoronix, one of the most respected Linux benchmarking sites on the internet, has been calling transformative for months. Thread creation and teardown on Linux 7.0 is 10 to 16% faster than before. File open and close operations are 4 to 16% quicker on multi-core machines. Memory reclaim, the process of freeing up RAM under pressure, is up to 75% faster. 75%. On top of that, Intel TSX extensions are now enabled by default on 10th gen and newer CPUs, delivering real-world multi-threaded gains for anyone with a modern Intel processor. And Canonical's own engineers worked directly with AMD and Intel to optimize the CPU scheduler for modern multi-core architectures, meaning the operating system itself makes better decisions about how to use your processor. You feel that every single day. Then there is GNOME 50. Ubuntu 26.04 ships with the biggest GNOME release in years. Variable refresh rate support is now baked in. Fractional scaling finally works the way it is supposed to. The mouse cursor runs at maximum frame rate even when a game or a professional app is running at a lower rate, a detail that sounds small until you have lived with the janky cursor lag on Windows 11 for 6 months, and forgotten what smooth actually feels like. The Nautilus file manager now loads directories up to 5 times faster. Thumbnail generation is 10 times faster. And here's the part nobody talks about. Ubuntu 26.04 also ships x86-64-v3, optimized package variants for users on Haswell 2013, or newer CPUs, which is basically everyone watching this right now, unlocking AVX2, BMI2, and FMA instruction sets that have been sitting idle in your processor because the operating system never bothered to use them. Windows 11 does not do this for you. It never has. And now we need to talk about the villain in this story. Because there is one. The villain is not Microsoft, the company, at least not entirely. The villain is a design philosophy. A set of choices made deliberately year after year that treats your computer not as your tool, but as Microsoft's distribution platform. A fresh Windows 11, install in 2026, greets you with Candy Crush Saga, ad-supported Solitaire, Microsoft Teams, Clipchamp, OneDrive nudges, and a collection of apps you never asked for and never downloaded. Microsoft finally gave enterprise IT administrators a group policy option to block these apps in July 2025. Home users, you still need PowerShell scripts or third-party debloating tools. Think about that for a second. Microsoft has the engineering resources to guarantee Candy Crush lands on every single fresh install of their operating system. But fixing the Windows Update bug that broke NVIDIA gaming drivers for 5 consecutive weeks? That apparently is harder. And the telemetry situation is worse than most people realize. Windows 11 collects your hardware specs, app usage patterns, error reports, and network data by default. And that is the required tier, the one you cannot turn off. Optional data includes browsing history, typing patterns, and location data. Multiple independent researchers have confirmed that these services continue running and continue consuming CPU and disk, even when you think you have disabled them. The Connected User Experiences and Telemetry service, DiagTrack, is sitting in your task manager right now, quietly doing its thing. The EU forced Microsoft to implement better privacy controls under the Digital Markets Act. Those improvements stayed in Europe. Here is where the twist comes in, and it is genuinely interesting. Some people looked at Ubuntu 26.04's system requirements and thought they saw a vulnerability. The recommended specs, 6 GB of RAM and a 2 GHz dual-core processor, technically exceed Windows 11's stated minimum of 4 GB of RAM. Windows Central ran a piece pointing this out. And on the surface, it looks like ammunition. It looks like Linux finally got fat. But dig one level deeper, and the story completely flips. Windows 11's minimum requirements are a hard floor enforced with a TPM 2.0 chip check, a secure boot requirement, and a processor compatibility list that locked out millions of perfectly functional machines when Windows 11 launched in 2021. Remember that backlash? Millions of users with capable hardware, computers running great, doing everything they needed, told they could not upgrade. Ubuntu 26.04's higher baseline exists because it is running a genuinely modern desktop stack. Wayland full-time with X11 support completely dropped. Hardware accelerated video encoding and decoding via VA API enabled by default on AMD and Intel. Pipewire 1.2 handling all audio and video. And TPM-backed full disk encryption out of the box. The requirements went up because the capabilities went up. That is a completely different thing. Now let us talk about what actually happened when people started running these two operating systems side by side on identical hardware. Phoronix ran Ubuntu 26.04 on a Ryzen 77800X 3D rig. Ubuntu boots in 8 seconds flat. Windows 11 boots in 18. Ubuntu idles at 1.2 GB of RAM. Windows 11 idles at 3.5 GB. Consumed by telemetry services, background widgets, the widgets panel, Xbox Game Bar, and a dozen processes you never launched. Earlier in 2026, a community benchmark on identical Lenovo ThinkPad X, 1 Carbon hardware running an Intel Core Ultra 7, 258V showed Ubuntu running approximately 23% faster than the stock Windows 11 Pro installation across dozens of workloads. And for AI workloads specifically, and this matters because AI is where computing is going, Ubuntu with AMD ROCm delivered nearly 2.5 times the performance of the same hardware running Windows 11. That is not a rounding error. That is a different class of machine. Canonical now ships native support for NVIDIA CUDA and AMD ROCm out of the box in Ubuntu 26.04. That means if you are doing any kind of machine learning work, any kind of AI development, any kind of GPU-accelerated workload, Ubuntu just became the serious platform, and Windows became the one you use when you have no other choice. Here is why this matters right now, in 2026, and not just as an interesting tech story. Microsoft has announced that Windows 10 reaches end of support in October 2025, which means it already has. Hundreds of millions of people are being pushed toward Windows 11 on hardware that Microsoft itself deemed incompatible at launch. They are paying for extended security updates, jumping through workaround hoops, or buying new machines just to stay supported. At the same time, Windows 11 still ships ads in the Start menu, still pushes Bing search in places you did not ask for it, still has Recall, the AI feature that screenshots everything you do, lurking in the background despite enormous privacy backlash. And Microsoft's own actions have made clear that Copilot AI integration is not optional going forward. It is being baked deeper into the OS with every update, consuming system resources whether you use it or not, whether you want it or not. Meanwhile, Ubuntu 26.04 ships a new security center that gives you real, granular control over application permissions. It ships Rust-based system utilities for memory safety. It ships TPM-backed encryption that just works, without a checklist of compatible hardware. The contrast is not subtle anymore. So, what should you actually do with all of this? Here are 4 concrete steps you can take right now. First, download Ubuntu 26.04 LTS from ubuntu.com and create a bootable USB drive using Balena Etcher. It is free, it takes less than 15 minutes, and you can boot it live, meaning you test the entire operating system on your actual hardware without touching a single file on your current machine. Second, if you game, and that is your main hesitation, check ProtonDB at protondb.com before you dismiss Linux entirely. The NTSYNC driver in Linux kernel 7.0 is a direct shot at Wine and Proton compatibility, and the library of games that run natively or through Proton in 2026 is larger than most people realize. Third, before you make any decision, run a fresh install of Windows 11 on the same machine and genuinely compare boot times, RAM at idle, and how long it takes to get to a usable desktop after updates. Not benchmarks from a website. Your own machine, your own experience. The numbers will speak for themselves. Fourth, if you are a developer, a data scientist, or anyone doing AI or machine learning work, the native CUDA and ROCm support in Ubuntu 26.04 is not a nice-to-have anymore. It is a competitive advantage. Set up a dual boot environment, run your actual workloads on both, and time them. The performance gap in GPU-accelerated tasks alone may justify the switch without any other argument needed. Here's the thing that the tech press keeps dancing around without saying it directly. The victim in this story is you. It is the person who has been paying for an operating system, buying hardware that meets its requirements, sitting through its update reboots, tolerating its ads and bloatware and telemetry, and just accepting that this is what computing feels like. You were never told there was another option that did not require a computer science degree to operate. But 2026 Ubuntu is not your grandfather's Linux. It boots faster, uses less memory, handles security better, respects your privacy by default, and on modern hardware with modern workloads, it simply runs faster. The performance gap used to be theoretical. It used to live in benchmarks and blog posts. Now it lives in boot time comparisons and AI generation speeds and file manager load times that are 10 times faster. It is real, it is measurable, and it is only going to grow. If this video made you think differently about your operating system, drop a comment below. I want to know what OS you are running right now and what is actually keeping you from making the switch. If you are already on Ubuntu, tell me your experience. And if you found this useful, hitting that like button genuinely helps this channel reach people who are still making a decision based on outdated information. Subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this. No fluff, no filler, just the stuff that actually matters.